We are only a few days into 2024 and people are already talking about the rumors of the Nintendo Switch 2. Today VGC posted this article: Switch 2 is likely to be an iteration rather than a revolution, predicts analyst. Nintendo's next generation console is expected to launch this year, which is long overdue. And guys, I gotta say, I actually bought the limited edition OLED Switch for Tears of the Kingdom, but I left it sealed and decided to just continue using my original Nintendo Switch, and that's primarily because the OLED Switch was such a minor upgrade that just didn't really move the needle, especially if you're playing it on a television anyway. So it looks like the Switch 2 might actually be the Switch Pro that we've been waiting for since we heard about the OLED model. Let's jump into what the article says here. It says Nintendo Switch's successor will launch this year and will likely be an iteration of the current hardware design rather than a revolution. That's according to Dr. Serkan Toto, CEO of Tokyo-based game industry consultancy Kantan Games, who contributed his forecast for 2024 in GameIndustry.biz's annual analysts predictions feature. Although the company is yet to comment publicly, Nintendo's next generation console is widely expected to launch this year after VGC reported that development kits are in the hands of developers as the platform holder prepares its plans. I like how they say next generation here, but the processor in the Switch right now, even though this came out in 2017, still can't output things that the PS4 was doing, and that was released back in 2013. So if Nintendo's current generation system is weaker than the industry's previous generation system, then that means that Nintendo's next generation system is what, gonna be as good as a PS4, maybe slightly better than a PS4, but still lagging behind the PS5 and Xbox. And look, if it's going to be portable, then that's going to be the niche that it thrives in, and it's going to have an advantage over the PS5 anyway, because Switch is still selling to this day, although it's definitely declined, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But man, next generation, using those terms, whew, we gotta really see something powerful out of the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called, because the current Switch is just, it's one of my favorite consoles, but it's just so weak, man. It's so weak these days. Anyway, according to Kantan Games' Toto, the console could launch at $400, which is $100 higher than the Switch launched at, and there's a chance its games could adopt the $70 pricing of PS5 and Xbox Series X. This to me makes sense. I can definitely see this happening, and $100 more, I mean, with the way that inflation has been going in the last couple of months, or over the last year for that matter, I would expect the console and its games to cost more, which is unfortunate given the fact that I think a lot of people, given the current state of the economy, are looking to save money, and I think that it would be unlikely that a lot of people are going to rush out and buy the Switch 2 unless it's going to truly be a next generation for Nintendo. But based on what we see here, that doesn't really look like it's going to be the case. It says the time is finally here for a Switch successor, even though I can say a Pro model actually did exist and certain developers were already working with the dev kit. Toto wrote, I believe the next hardware will drop in 2024 for $400. There is a high chance the games will cost more too, of $70. So according to the industry consultant, Nintendo's next console will again have portable functionality, as VGC reported last year. The next system is also likely to be an iteration rather than a revolution. Nintendo might add some bells and whistles to the device, but it will be similar to the current Switch. And because there is Pokemon, and Pokemon is associated with the handheld gaming, there is no way on earth Nintendo will drop the portability feature for their next big thing. And what that means is you can't expect the Switch 2 to be as powerful as the PS5. It's just not going to happen. If it's going to be portable, it ain't going to be a portable that's even close to as powerful as the PS5. It's just not going to happen. Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa declined to comment on plans for the company's next console in November, as it announced Switch had cleared 132.46 million lifetime sales. Here you can see Switch hardware sales per region, and you can see that we peaked, and it looks like 2022, which was nice. I think their financial years are offset from actual years, because you can see there's some sales here for 2024, even though 2024 is 3 days old at this point, which means their quarter probably began, you know, a quarter ago. So that's probably what's going on here. But regardless, despite unusually strong performance for a console entering its 7th year on the market, Switch hardware sales are clearly in decline, especially in the major markets outside of Japan. You could see the drop from 2022 to 2023. I mean, yeah, I think Switch did really well during the pandemic. I think a lot of kids were at home doing the homeschool thing, and the parents needed the computer for their work and they needed the TV for whatever reason, and the kids were kind of sent off to play their handheld devices. And also the Switch was at that time more affordable than things like PS5, and especially easier to come by, even though the Switch, if you guys remember back then, was also still pretty difficult to get your hands on as well. In Nintendo's last fiscal year, Switch sales declined by 22% compared to the previous year, and if it reaches its current target of 15 million for this year, that will represent a further decline of 16.5%. So basically, Nintendo Switch 2, we need it. Nintendo needs it. Their hardware sales are declining, and rightfully so. The PS5 is popping off right now. Everyone is enjoying it and nobody is stuck inside anymore. So everyone who wanted a Switch already has it, and all the big games have basically already come out. We've already seen 2 Legend of Zelda games come out here. We've already seen 2 mainline Pokemon series, that would be Sword and Shield and also Scarlet and Violet. We also saw Legends Arceus come out on the Nintendo Switch, and we also saw the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee series come out. So we've already got tons of great games on the Nintendo Switch. There's really not much more that Nintendo can do, and I think now is the perfect time for a new generation of console. But I'm really concerned that the Switch 2 is not going to live up to any sort of hype. I'm really concerned. I think we really need something much more powerful than the current Switch. It can't be a small bump up. It's got to be significantly more powerful, and let me tell you why. I have played and beaten every single Pokemon game, including completing the Pokedex up until Scarlet and Violet. Those games are just unplayable unless you really love the story, I guess. But same thing with Legend Arceus. The render distance on the Nintendo Switch is a laughable like 5 feet. Like, you're supposed to be standing on the top of a mountain overlooking this vast continent filled with Pokemon, and literally nothing is loaded in because it's so far away, because the Switch is just so weak. And honestly, Tears of the Kingdom, as good of a game as it was basically a reiteration of Breath of the Wild with crafting. And Breath of the Wild, as well as Tears of the Kingdom, definitely has some frame rate issues depending on what's actually going on the screen. So those games are really pushing up against the upper limits of what the Switch can do. And if Nintendo wants to release a truly next generation experience for their titles like Legend of Zelda and like Pokemon, they can't do it with anything that's even remotely in the ballpark of what the Switch can do, because the Switch is literally 7 years old now. The hardware is absolutely ancient. It was almost obsolete when it came out. Okay, it was weaker than a console that came out 4 years before it. So we need something significantly better. And honestly, I'm totally fine with the form factor. I think the Switch OLED has a beautiful display. I like that it's a little bit larger. I think if they can just fix the Joy-Con drift that everyone knows exists, even Nintendo, even though they won't actually admit it, if they can fix that and keep the form factor the same but make it significantly stronger, I think that they might have something good on their hands. But I can't emphasize enough that it really needs to be much stronger, because we can't see the next generation of Pokemon look like Scarlet and Violet. It just looks it's unplayable. I played maybe 3-4 hours of it. It's just it's an actual dumpster fire, and that's coming from somebody who, again, I beat Sword and Shield and completed the Pokedex and beat all of the DLC for it. I liked those games despite their flaws, but Scarlet and Violet was even more ambitious, and it just fell short in literally every single way. So I want to see a successful open world Pokemon game, and I want to see Legend of Zelda take it to the next level, but we're not going to be able to do it if the Switch 2 is just sort of a mild sort of half step upgrade. We really need something powerful out of Nintendo. Otherwise, I feel like they're going to have another Wii U on their hands, right? You don't want another Wii U, okay? And I'm worried that that's what's going to happen if they do a Switch 2 and it looks similar to the current Switch. Nobody's going to buy it, okay? That's the problem that the Wii U had, is that it shared a similar name and it used the same remote. Now, of course, it had I loved the Wii U. I have a Wii U. I think that was actually a phenomenal console with great games on it, which they've basically ported all those games over the Switch now, which I'm glad that they did that. But let's just be real, those were all Wii U games and they're great games. But the Wii U failed because it didn't seem like a massive upgrade from the Wii, and consumers were confused. If we see Switch 2 come out with basically the same form factor as the Switch, I think Nintendo is in trouble. Okay, so we need to see a significant upgrade here in terms of the performance, and it has to be obvious to consumers that this is the next Nintendo console. They need to do that. Otherwise, drop the 2, call it a Pro, and start over from scratch, because that's really like, that's what you got to do. Okay, that's what you got to do. I'm sorry, make it like a DSi type of upgrade, okay, where it's like a slightly stronger hardware. And I mean, Nintendo knows better than anyone that another repeat of the Wii U would be an absolute catastrophe for them. So hopefully they could see that coming from a mile away if they release something that is half baked. But guys, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. What do you think about the current state of the Nintendo Switch? Do you think that the next Switch console needs to be significantly improved, or do you think that a Pro style upgrade would be sufficient to get people to buy the new console? I think given the current state of the economy, I don't think a Pro version would go over very well, but I'd love to hear from you guys down below. And while you're down there, consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell to be notified the next time that I upload a gaming news video, and drop a thumbs up on the video. It really helps out the channel a ton. It helps get this video out into the YouTube algorithm so other people might see it. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I will talk to you guys again soon. Peace.